Hello, and welcome once again to Lake Tahoe Sessions with Alex Elmsley. The excitement not only continues, but escalates as we continue to explore the secrets and the magic of the amazing Alex Elmsley.
Right. Do you have a piece of paper and a pencil on you? If not, I think I've probably got one here. I've got a pencil. I like to make other people do the work as much as I can, so I'll give you a scrap of paper. I'm going to ask you to make a prediction, but not on your own bat. I'm going to look through these cards. Perhaps you give them a bit of a mix first. Right. And you have any idea? I think that's a good card, don't you?
Looks good to me.
I think, write that down as a prediction, but don't let him see it.
Okay.
But I don't want even you to know where the card goes back in the pack, so I'm going to put it back in the pack, but behind my back. Right, so you hang on to that. Now, he's got a prediction. I want you to touch a card, and you can be as slow and as indecisive as you wish. You can change your mind right there. Okay, I'm not going to show it to you yet, but please notice it doesn't go out of your sight. There's the card. You still see the card?
Yes.
There it is. Right. And now, will you read out the prediction, please?
2 of hearts.
Now, the prediction part of this is pure laziness on my part. I like to make somebody else do some of the work, and I think on the whole it's a good presentation to bring more people in. So instead of writing the prediction myself, I look through, I decide on any card, preferably a card that's easy for people to recognize. In that case, it was the 2 of hearts. Let's suppose that it's going to be the 4 of hearts. And you show it to somebody and you ask them to write it down. But there's a second reason for doing this. I say that I don't want them to know where the card goes back. And I put it back behind my back, and I put it back second from the face, reversed. When I first started doing this trick, I worked out complicated sleights for getting it reversed second from the face, and I found putting the cards behind my back and placing it there myself was much easier. So there it is. That's all we have to do. And now, you go through the pack and you ask somebody to touch the cards. And they touch a card, as it might be this one, it doesn't matter which. You've got an excuse for not showing it yet, because you will want to have the prediction read first. But you take the cards like this, holding the projecting card under those in your right hand, while you turn over those in your left hand. Place the card there, turn over the cards above it. Now you still don't put it flush, you push it in, but strongly angled towards your left. And then you do a fan, so. Now, if you look in at that fan, you can see there is the edge of the card immediately below the card that was touched. This is the card 2 below. You want to put your finger on that and jog them to the right. This will reduce the chance of this card being seen when you turn the fan over, and the card you jog to the right is in fact the one that you secretly reversed behind your back. You've increased the amount by which it will show up. When you turn over the fan, that card is not that card. You turn over the fan and there is the card that you reversed behind your back. When you take it out, if you're not careful, you can sometimes flash the cards, so I'll raise the fan a bit there. If, as you take it out, with the backs of your right fingers, you push the edge of the fan in a bit, that helps to make sure that the card the hidden card doesn't show up. And that's it. You've got a reverse card there, and you can generally cut at it because it's a bit bent. There it is. And then correct it at your leisure. Now, I'm going to try a trick using 2 packs instead of just 1. I've got another pack here. And Paul, will you help me?
Yes.
I want you to decide whether you want to use the blue or the red, and the one that you don't use, I will use. No equivocation. The red or the blue?
I will use the blue.
The blue, right, okay. So you take the blue, and I'm going to ask you to do with the blue just what I do with the red. First of all, I want you to spread them out across the table like that. Now, choose a card. I'll choose this one, as it might be. Any card you like, push it out. Now, I'm going to take your card, your blue card, and put it on the face of my pack. You take my card, which I think was red, on the face of your pack. Square up your pack. Now, the 2 cards that we chose, my 4 of clubs, your 5 of hearts, are on the face. So let's get rid of them by cutting the packets. Which packet did you choose?
I have the blue.
You chose the blue. I've got the blue. What have you got?
Got the red.
But we changed over 2 cards. So I've got a red card here, and you chose the 5 of hearts. It's the 5 of hearts. And I chose the 4 of clubs. Now, for this trick, you do need some preparation. I got a red pack, I got a truly blue pack. But the preparation is to take 1 card, it might be the 4 of clubs from the red pack, and put it on top of the blue, and the same card from the blue on top of the red. And how you introduce these is a matter of the structure of all the card tricks you're doing taken together. Is not something that one can really lay down in black and white. It's up to you to decide how you bring these into play. But let us suppose that you've done this. Here's your starting position. 2 packs, top cards, same value, changed over. And you ask the spectator to choose either pack, and it is genuinely a free choice. The pack the spectator chooses is the pack that the spectator gets. So, which will you choose?
Let's go for the red.
The red. And you hand them the cards you chose. And that leaves me with the blue, and you idly cut them, which brings your odd card to the middle. You've got to remember what your odd card was. Now you ask him to do what you did. Spread the cards. Push out any card from the middle. He can push out any card. You've got to find and push out the card that you swapped over. You take his card, bluff call it of the wrong colour. Say, he thinks his pack is red, so I say, I'll take your red, 5 of hearts. You take my blue, 4 of clubs, and the one you give him genuinely is blue, and you can encourage him to check. And put it on the face of your pack. Square up. And lose the cards by cutting them. which incidentally is the mechanism for the colour change of the packs, because it moves the odd card that was at the back of the pack right into the middle. And now the trick's over, because the packs change places. I've got the red, you've got the blue, and each of us still has an odd card, and this is his odd 5 of hearts, and that is my odd 4 of clubs, and now we're clean. When I came over to do the lecture in 1975, I put quite a lot of theoretical thought into it. And I tried the lecture out various places before coming over, and it seemed to work. So that again was quite a lot of work on the presentation side. Lately I've been out of magic for a long time. I'm getting back into it now, but there are a lot of routines that I'm beginning to remember, beginning to do again, but they do need quite a bit more work on the presentation side, and I am very conscious of it. It'll come, I hope, touch wood. I am a ghost. I'll explain what I mean. I was in a very strange poker game the other day. Just 2 of us, and the man I was playing with was so sure of himself. He told me I could shuffle, I could cut, I could deal. He was so sure of himself, he told me to deal his cards face up. What, I said, like this? He said, yes. Can I deal my cards face down? Yes. So I dealt mine face down. And he had a 10, a jack, a queen, king, ace of spades, a royal flush. And I was not only dismayed by the power of his hand, I was also seriously annoyed because he'd let me shuffle, he'd let me cut, and I had gone to a lot of trouble in order to give myself 10, jack, queen, king, ace of spades. In fact, I accused him of cheating. I think you might have done the same thing. And I told him to turn his cards over. He did, and sure enough, they were from a different pack to all of these. And I pulled out a pistol and I was just about to shoot him when he said, wait a moment, you've been cheating. I didn't understand what he meant. I said, all my cards are blue, there's no problem with my cards. He said, but look at the pack. So I looked at the pack. He said, turn it over. I turned it over. And sure enough, the pack was from a different pack. So he shot me. I am a ghost. So, this in fact is another exercise in how to do a bad second deal with all the misdirection you want. You also need a setup. I'll explain the setup. I've got basically a red pack from which I removed the red royal flush in spades. I've also got a blue royal flush in spades with an odd card, and these are alternated at the top of the pack. So, leaving this one aside, here are my blue and red royal flushes alternated. I like to have them running in different orders, but it doesn't matter seriously. But from the other side, as you can see, the colours are alternating. Top card is blue, one extra card which is also blue. The value is of no importance, and those are on top of the pack. And you tell your story about this strange poker game you got into, and you're going to deal the cards face up to the spectator. So you do a bit of a necktie deal. My second deal is appalling. I call it a top glide. But you've got all the misdirection in the world, because immediately a high card goes down. I then like to say, can I deal mine face down so that they see, again, blue card moving against blue card. You carry on. And the way that hand is growing over there, nobody is going to look at the way in which you are taking the cards off the pack. So he's got his royal flush in spades. Now you're down to one card, that odd card whose value didn't matter, on top of the pack. So you'd explain how you had gone to a lot of trouble to provide your own royal flush in spades. You accuse him of cheating. You turn his cards over. They are all red. At this point, you squeeze the top card off and take a little break. You pick up your own cards and show that they're blue. At this point, apparently, you're just emphasizing that his cards are a different color to all the others. But naturally, you square these up. You take off the card above the break. You've stolen the odd card that was on top of the rest of the pack. They're down there. Of course, you don't show that. So you talk about how you took out your pistol and was about to shoot him when he says, "You're cheating." And you count 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter precisely how you do the false count. You count 6 cards as 5, which means that the extra card has been removed from the face, and the card on the face is now one of the flush, and you can gesture more freely. And he tells you to look at the pack, to turn the pack over, and the pack is now all matching his cards, not yours. So you put your cards away and you're clean. Now, in this next trick, I'm going to make use of a handkerchief, but it comes in a bit later. I've got here a mixture of red and black cards. I'll just check up what I've got. They go black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red, alternating red and black. Now, it's an easy matter to get at the card at the bottom or to get at the card at the top. Getting at any of the cards in the middle is much more difficult, and that's where the handkerchief comes in. Because I'm going to wrap the cards in the handkerchief. Fairly tightly like that. And now, would you like the red or the black?
I'll take the black.
You'll take the black, okay. Whichever you choose, there's a couple of black. We need a couple more. There's another black. There are your black.
Thank you very much.
We've got the reds. So this is just a combination of two old tricks. Oil and water done with a biddle, plus classic card-through handkerchief. You start by taking out a mixture of alternate black and red, but I had them already set when I was going through the first time. If you're starting from scratch, you go through and you look for a pair, red and black, red and black, red and black, there's a pair red and black. Not making too much of the fact that they're alternating because you want to have the excuse for going through to emphasize them, and the rest of the pack can go away. And now, you display one card. The next one you take a break underneath. Straight, break. Take. As you take the third card, you've stolen the second. Break. So far, it's been straight, break, steal, break. Steal again, and then let the ones under your right hand break and the face card go back together, and then the last two straight, and you can let them spread. This is now the state of affairs in truth. 3 of one colour, 3 of another, and then 2 at the front. So, now you talk about how it's easy to get at the card at the face, and you do a glide. The card at the top. Hard to get at the cards in the middle, and the card that you glid out, if that is the correct past participle, goes back on top. And you also make sure that you can take a break under the top 4 cards. And as you square up and you direct attention to the handkerchief, you simply palm off the cards above the break, pick up the handkerchief, shake it up, and dive your hand underneath. Place these cards on, wrap up. Actual state of affairs, there are the 4. The way I like to do the wrapping is to fold under on my near side, fold under on the far side. Now, if I turned over, these cards would probably show, so I keep my fingers over while I'm twisting around. And now you're ready. You can offer a choice of red or black. If they ask for red, those are the ones inside the handkerchief. And you say, if I gave you the handkerchief, you'd have both red and black. So before I give you the handkerchief, I must remove the black, and you pull out the black. If, on the other hand, they choose the black, then you just go ahead and pull out the black. Sometimes they stick together, particularly at this time of day. It still looks good. And now you're clean. And you can show the remaining red. I think 2 of my greatest thrills in those days, apart from, of course, from the Di Vernon lecture, were Shannon Pollock appearing professionally in England and in London to start with, and also, in those days, the Magic Circle had a monthly stage concert in a YMCA hall in the middle of London. And on one of these, out of nowhere, appeared this man who we hadn't heard of, Neil Foster doing his Zombie. And he got a standing ovation. And, as I say, we hadn't heard of him. And that was marvelous. Okay, first the vanish. We got, as you'll have realized, the 4 aces held as one. And this was based on the birdcage vanish in Tarbell. But I find it more effective, instead of going into a finger clip like that, go into a front palm. Like that. I think it looks better. And then I squeeze and transfer it into a rear palm, so that it's from the back view, like that. There's the vanish. Now you come up and load these cards together into the left hand, rub and push it up. The card rises front view. So, take the cards, place them back. As you do so, steal one card. Now I'm going to interrupt the explanation in order to talk about the multiplication separately, and then we'll go back and put them together. The best way to start learning this multiplication is just with 2 cards, and it's really pretty easy with 2 cards. You hold it between thumb and first finger, lower the next 2 fingers over the corner, pull it up, place it on the back of the first finger. That's comparatively easy and can be done very swiftly. Once you've mastered that, you move on to the next stage, which I'm afraid is more than twice as difficult. 3 cards. You start in the same way. Note, by the way, that you're not holding the cards by the end, you're holding them about the middle. Now, for the first card is now going to be much more difficult than it used to be. You've got to get out just one of those 2 cards. And it's by a combination of sort of springing it off the first finger and licking it off with this finger, raising it up and putting it there. Now, for the second part of the multiplication, these 2 fingers have got to come down, take it by the corner, lift it up onto the back, and you're there. Now, it takes a bit of practice. It's not quite as difficult. You don't need your fingers to be quite as flexible as you might think. Well, look what's happened now. You can, in fact, hold that card practically by friction there. You don't have to reach right up and round. But that's nevertheless the principle. So, we'll go back to our explanation. Remember, I'll just repeat a little bit so that we get to the right place. We'd vanished the cards. They rise from the back of the hand. You steal off one of the cards, leaving 3. Now you're going to multiply these. The best angle, if you feel that you may be rather fumbling and slow during the multiplication, is when they're horizontal. You multiply again. Now, you're going to produce the card in the right hand. The way in which that is done, don't be cowardly, bend that card. Second finger goes right underneath it, and the first and third fingers on top and extend out. Effect is that it's produced quite vertically at the fingertips. Come back and place it in the last position. There you are. And a little flourish to end the whole thing. I'm going to show you a trick with ace and 2 and 3 of spades. Here we have them, ace, 2, 3. The pack will also play a part. We'll deal with these cards one at a time. First the ace, 2 and the 3, but later on. Here we've got the ace of spades. It goes into the pack. It's somewhere in the middle. Cut the pack, tap the pack, and flies to the pocket. Now, as I deal with each card, I'll then cut it back into the pack, but turned round so that we'll be able to find it again more easily. Now the 2. The 2 is usually a fairly easy card. Cut the pack. 2 taps for the 2. And, yes, the 2's a fairly easy card. The 3 is the one that's apt to give me problems. I'll hope for the best. There's the 3. It's rather an obstreperous card. You push it in. cut, tap, and with a bit of luck, did I tap once? No, I should have tapped 3 times. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3. Got it that time. I'm sorry about that fumble I had with the 3. I said it was a difficult card, and you know what they say, if you're riding a horse and you fall off, then you should get on again immediately. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to do that trick again, but so that you don't get too bored with it, I'll do it a bit differently. Because last time, all of the cards went into this pocket over here. This time I'm going to try to send each card, 1 card to here, 1 card to a pocket over here, and 1 card to a pocket somewhere inside my jacket. Not only that, but I'll try and deal with all of them at the same time. Tap, 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 tap. There they are. And here's the ace. Here's the 2. And here's the 3. Now, for the explanation of this, you need the ace and 2 and 3 of any suit. You can, if you've got time, ask the spectators to choose a suit and then go through the pack and take out the appropriate ace, 2 and 3. You can have them signed if you like. You also need a matching 2 of the same colour. So I've got it here ready on the face of the pack. So, the start. You have the ace on the face of these, pick up the extra 2 and show ace, 2, 3. Then as you turn your hand over to put them down, you simply slide with your fingers so that you're taking, in fact, the 2 and the 2 and the 3, the ace is here. Now you explain you will also use the pack and you just shuffle the ace to the top. The way I do it, I do a slight glide in order to pick up a break and then an overhand shuffle. When you do it at normal speed, you don't drop cards. As you square, a little break underneath the ace that's at the top. You pick up the first card, place it here, turn these over. If you stagger them about so much, about the width of the border and the same again here, when you turn over, the 2 will show its top, but it won't show the suit. It depends on the surface. With some cards you can turn over quite casually, but with other cards they'll spread too much and show it. Right, you can just leave those there. Now, you push the double forward, undercut to the middle, show the ace is genuinely there. Now we come to the first rear palm. And it's easiest to explain this if I hold up the action of the trick for a minute. We'll leave those there. Here's what I call the fan steal. You put a card to be stolen into the pack. As you push it in, you angle it a bit to the left. I probably exaggerated it there. You push forward, and it will go right through the pack. It appears fairly smooth on this side of the pack, but under the cover of your fingers, it's come out on the other side. And that was Bill Simon's move. Now, little finger, the bone at the base of this joint hits that projecting corner and swivels it further. And then slide a little bit forward so that the card gets into the crease that forms when you bend the little finger. That's what I call the pinky clip. You do that, and then you fan the pack away from the card, and the card is stolen in the pinky clip. So, doing that again, but from audience point of view, like that. Now you're going to transfer it to the rear palm, but that's very easy because you can almost do it under cover as you turn the fan over. Everybody's looking at the fan, and behind the cover you just push with the middle fingers into the rear palm. Angles of the rear palm in general, if your hand is at that sort of an angle, you're safe to the right of the line in which your finger is pointing, you're unsafe to the left. It's that simple. Round further to your right, the angles are better than you might think if you're wearing a jacket, because the sleeve of the jacket hides the angles. So, that's the basic move. Once you've got the knack of it, you can do it also with 2 cards. And that's what going back to the trick, what we're doing here. You show the ace, you put it in, angle to the left, push through, fan, transfer to the rear palm. And here we've got them. Square up, cut, tap, into the pocket. And at this point I turn both cards round and take out the card on the outside, which is the ace. Okay, so far. You put the ace back and you talk about returning the cards as they are dealt with, but face up so that they can be found again easily. And you cut the ace into the middle and you keep a break underneath it. Right, now you're ready for the 2, which truly is easy. There's nothing to do. It's already in your pocket. Flip those over, take the pretend 2. You're not cutting at the break now. Your break was fairly low and you're cutting above. You're not trying to control this card, it's the indifferent 2. Push it in, now you cut at your break, and at the same time, take a new break above the bottom 2 cards of the pack. Tap, tap, reach into your pocket, and you can pull out the 2. Take a break beneath that 2 and cut the odd 2 cards from the bottom on top of it. I used to do that in 2 moves, a double undercut, but really I don't think it's noticed if you just do it in 1. So now I just go straight to it. I've got a break here now under these 3 cards. Check current position, indifferent card, ace, 2 of spades. You pick up the 3, you talk about it being difficult. This is genuinely the 3. You turn it face up here. Then you turn it face down, doing a quadruple turnover. And a little bit in jog, the whole lot of them, but you immediately push forward, which hides the front edge. But I've got the other 3 cards in jogged here, so that I can cut that card to the middle, and pick up that break again. People think that this is the 3. In fact, this is the 2. Now, a second form of rear palm. And this was based on Marlowe's misdirection palm. But it's in fact a very coarse misdirection palm indeed. But it gets covered by a sort of swing of the body. What I'm doing is firmly placing my palm right over the cards to be picked up, pushing them into the rear palm, and under the cover of pushing the projecting card in. But that becomes far less obvious if you talk about the 3 being a difficult card, and you do it as you are turning your body. You push this in at an angle again, take a break, and cut at the break. Now I've got these cards. Go into the pocket, dump those cards, again, turn them round. But you talk about the problems you're having. Did I tap 3 times? I'm afraid I only tapped once. I should have tapped 3 times. Come out. 3 taps. Now, because it's your second effort, all attention is on this pocket. And as you are pulling the 3 out here, other side of your body, you are just swinging back and thumbing the 2 into the left pocket. The 3 has arrived. And you cut it back into the pack. You don't have to keep a break that time. Now, thank goodness, nearly all the work is over. So you can move in for the kill, the climax. You apologise for the fumble. You're going to do the trick again, but you'll do it a bit differently. Last time, all the cards went into this pocket. You take the reverse card, which is the 3, put it in closest to the body, and then as you talk about sending just one card to this pocket, but another card to that pocket and another card to this pocket, you take out the outermost card from your right jacket pocket. Francis Carlyle's move. This is a truly indifferent card. Not only that, you'll try and do all of them at once. Push that card in, reversed, but then unreverse it in any method you like. All I'm doing is bringing it out, locked on my fingers, and turning the pack round on top of it. Go through any motions you like. And now you're in the happy position of being able to spread the pack out. No reverse cards there. Your hands are empty. You take one card out here. You take one card out there, and simultaneously your hand goes back into this pocket and palms the other one, the 3, and one card out here. End of story. You know how card sharps have romantic names, like the Mysterious Kid? I got an acquaintance who calls himself the Incredible Nerd. I don't know him well enough to use his first name, so I called him Mr. Nerd. Now, he was very proud of a new card control he was trying to show me the other day. He took the pack and he cut 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 packets, turned them over, and there were 10 of hearts, Jack of hearts, Queen of hearts, King of hearts, Ace of hearts, a royal flush, and hearts. I wasn't very impressed, as I said to him, you took those cards straight out of the case. They'd never been shuffled. So he said, all right, I'll shuffle the cards. And he shuffled the cards. And then once more he cut. And he cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packets. And once more he had 10 of hearts, Jack of hearts, Queen of hearts, King of hearts, Ace of hearts. I thought that was a bit better, but I wasn't going to admit it. So I said to him, 1 shuffle, big deal. In a real game, the cards get shuffled time after time. So he said, all right, then I'll shuffle again. And he shuffled again. And he did show me that the cards were well shuffled. And then again he cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 packets. And again he had 10 of hearts, Jack of hearts, Queen of hearts, King of hearts, Ace of hearts. I was quite impressed by now, so I asked if I could have a go. He wasn't very willing, but at length he agreed. Trouble was that I didn't know what he'd been doing, so all I could try was to imitate his actions. So I shuffled the cards, and I made sure they were well shuffled. And then I cut 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 packets. And then I held my breath and hoped for the best. And I was pretty pleased with myself. He didn't agree. He claimed he was very observant, and he'd happened to notice that when we started, we were using cards from a pack with red backs. And he offered to bet me that that flush in hearts came from a different pack to these others. Like I said, I didn't know what I'd been doing, so I was in no position to start making bets. I thought the only thing I could try was to take out that flush in hearts, and we could actually look at them. Sure enough, they came from a different pack. I got out of it, though, because I pointed out to him he hadn't been cutting the cards from that packet, he'd been cutting them from this packet. So if the flush in hearts was from the same pack as this, there was no problem. Now, there's quite a lot of preparation for this trick. Just a little point before I get properly started. I like to start the trick, for the sake of the plot, pulling the pack out of the case, but then I get rid of the case altogether into a pocket, because otherwise it clutters up the table. Now, for this trick, you need 5 different back designs, all with white edges so that they don't actually show up if the cards get bent a little, white borders I mean, and all as accurately cut as possible, because you've got to do Faro shuffles with a mixture of cards from all 5 packs. And assembling a suitable set of cards is probably the hardest part of the trick. So here's my setup. I've got an upper block up to the Ace of Hearts. These are the 5 different designs. You get designs and get an order of them that suits you. So I've got my starting back, red. I've got a Pepsi back, a Casino back, a Budweiser back. I think that's the Bicycle Christmas back. So there are the 5 different designs. The 5th card will be one of your royal flush in hearts or spades or whatever. When I first started doing the trick, I used spades. Now I switched over to the hearts because the ace of spades in fancy designs tends itself to be a fancy card, which is irrelevant to the trick but distracts attention. So ace of hearts is a very ordinary looking ace. And throughout these, the same sequence of colours is repeated. Red, Pepsi, casino, bud, green. Red, Pepsi, casino, bud, green. Red, Pepsi, casino, bud, green. And the actual values of any of the cards except every fifth, green, 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 doesn't matter, but the 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th, those are your flush in hearts. In addition, just to save myself bother, I've slightly shortened the corner shorts here and here, of each of the flush in hearts. That's part of the preparation. Whatever your starting back may be, 7 more of those. Values don't matter. And then enough more of the same back as the flush in hearts to make up your pack of 52. More or less, the exact number obviously doesn't matter. Okay. So there's the setup. You take the cards out of the case, and now thanks to the corner shorts, you can riffle down to 10 of hearts, Jack of hearts, Queen of hearts, King of hearts, Ace of hearts. These cards you put to one side. Try and make sure you get them into a position where you won't accidentally jog them, because only the top 7 cards are your starting back. You turn these over, and there we've got the flush and hearts. Now, you have to learn how to pick them up. It looks pretty natural, it can be done quickly. You pick up ace and king together, drop them on queen and jack. Pick up the 10 and drop it on the king, and then this lot, which are the ace packet with the ace on the lot. This is so that after you've done a Faro shuffle, they will once more come out in correct order of 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. You do the Faro shuffle. It's hard anyway to do a Faro shuffle with a small number of cards. I find it helps if I hold the cards rather nearer to the weaving corners than I normally would, and also use rather more pressure than I normally would. In fact, I've done a miscut there in my explanation, but when you're used to your cards, then you will know what the correct sequence of backs should be for cutting at. So there, I've got my first Faro. And what that Faro of 25 cards does is to circulate the backs, so that each time you go round doing a cut of 5 packets, a different set of backs will turn up. We cut, and now we've got the casino backs. Pick up as before. Once more, cut. Faro. The second Faro is when I normally spread to show that the cards are well mixed. Now we've got the bud backs. Same pickup yet again. The third Faro is when you are pretending to have a go at doing the cut without quite knowing how it works. And this is where you do the Faro, and this is the point at which I like to put in the waterfall. So they each have a slight variation. And we get the next set of backs. Now, in fact, we've been through all of the backs except the genuine backs of the royal flush. which in this case are the green ones. So this is when we talk about the man you're showing it to suspecting you of cheating. And he's noticed that these started with cards from a pack with red backs, and you push off 6. If you go too far, you'll be showing the rest of the cards. You put those on the face, but in-jogged. You turn over, and you talk about him offering to bet that the flush in hearts was from a different pack to these others, and you lick out the remaining, the 7th one, and place it on the face, and then square up and keep a break. Now, what you're going to do is to switch all cards except the flush for the ones under that break. So the way I do it, take out the ace, the king, the queen, the jack, and the 10. And there are different techniques you can use here. What I like to do is a variation of a spread pass. Push the cards together, and then turn this hand down as I put those over. What I usually do, and I haven't actually gone into it, this I think you can work out for yourselves, is to make sure that these 2 cards match, so there isn't an astonishing change. Most of the times it wouldn't be noticed, but it went from a red court card to a black 2 or something of that sort. It could become a bit obvious, so you might as well aim for perfection there as well. And now the trick is over. You show that those cards are from yet another back. But when your gambler friend was doing the cutting, he didn't cut from these cards, and you can spread a few at the top. He cut from these cards. And the flush in hearts matches these cards. All I can say is what constitutes the kind of magic that appeals to me. And that is the magic where I cease to worry about how it's done and just lean back and enjoy. So I've always had a liking for the kind of effect in which sort of extraneous magic seems to be going on while the magician isn't really aware of it. For example, that's part of the kind of effect that I was trying to get in routine that I've developed into a practical terms fairly recently, although the idea was in an old notebook of mine, which was the colour-changing Faro shuffle, where you're talking all the time, quite straight-faced, about magician cutting the pack and keeping on cutting a royal flush in hearts or spades or what have you. But without you commenting on it, the pack keeps changing colour. So I have a liking for that sort of thing. Here's a little trick that shows an interesting property of the cards. I'm going to take out some reds and some blacks. I want the same number of reds and blacks, so I'll take them out in pairs. There, that'll do. Now, we'll separate these out. In fact, I think it would be better if I have these face down. So we've separated the reds and the blacks. Now, naturally enough, the colours of the cards in the packets match these cards, which we can consider as being leader cards. What I don't understand is why, if we change the packets over, their colours still match the leader cards. Would you like me to change these or not?
Yes.
Yes, right. And still they match. And as we change those, I won't change these, but still they match. And it still works if we change the leaders instead. Still they match. I don't know. This is a version of Follow the Leader with no sleights whatsoever. There's one move of Dr. Jacobs Daly's, which some people might consider a sleight. I would just call it a move. But You're starting to do the trick before they think you're starting. You're starting to do the trick when you take the cards out, because you take them out under the excuse of having the same number as blacks and reds, so that they'll be alternating. And the reason for that is so that later on, in a moment, you'll have an excuse for separating them, which is when all the hard work is done. Well, it's not hard work. We don't need the rest of the pack. We've got the same number as reds and blacks. I'll separate them. And you start dealing with the cards face up. And then you change your mind. It'll be better if these cards were face down. You turn that one down. As you turn that down, you also turn the whole lot down, which looks so natural, and you carry on dealing. This is what's happening now. First bit of setup. There's some more to come, because when you come to the last two, you look up and say, so I've separated them. And again, this is illogical, but it looks the natural thing. You just take the top card in your right hand, the other one in your left. You don't turn them over at that point. Just drop them there. And now you're in this position, which is really quite a complex setup to have done with no sleights. Now you're ready to go. You can show that the top cards do match. You can change over and show that the next cards do match. Then you can offer the choice of switching or not switching. Suppose they ask you to switch. This is the daily move. You hold one card between thumb and first finger, the other card between first finger and second finger. Apparently you're changing over like that, but you also cross your wrists after the change and turn over and place them down. So in fact you've double change, which brings you back where you started. And we changed those, so we won't change the next ones. They match. Suppose we have it the other way round. You ask them, shall we change or not? And they say no. So you show that those match. And we didn't change the last lot, so we will change these. Either way. And now we do have different ones here, so you can do one final change, which is where I normally change the leader packets instead, and still we match. Now, I've got a memento of this next trick in here, but I better do the trick first, give you the memento afterwards. It seems a bit more sensible. I'm going to ask you, Gary, to choose any one of these cards. Just take it, it doesn't matter if I see it, just pull it out of the spread towards you. I don't want to influence you, so I'll turn a wee bit away.
All right.
And will you initial it, please? Right. So, in my pocket, in fact, I got a signed memento of the trick with the two of spades. Now, watch this. There's the card. You may never see it again. It's in the pack. You do still remember what it is?
Sure do.
Right. Well, it wouldn't matter if you did forget, because you'd always check by looking at the memento. I keep talking about the memento. I think I'd better show it to you. It's in here, in my wallet. In here, sorry, wrong side. In here, here's the memento. As I say, it's a signed memento. Would you like to look at it?
Sure would. I really would like to look at it. That's great.
And that means that if you, any time in the future, you'll be able to look at the memento to remind yourself what your initials are. Now, this is a trick using the rear palm, and I like to present the card to wallet by talking about this memento that I've got in here. I don't mention the wallet yet. That gradually comes into play later on. So I've got the memento for this trick that I'm going to do, but I better do the trick first. And I spread the pack out. Now, for the sake of the angles on the rear palm, when I take the card into the palm, my hand will be like that, and the angles are pretty well to the right of the direction my forefinger is pointing. So I have the card chosen by spreading the pack out and then say, but I don't want to influence your choice, so I'll turn away for a moment, and that gives me an excuse for having the rest of the trick at what is a slightly better angle for me. So now I'm here. I don't have to keep on holding my hand like that because the card isn't there yet. And I ask Gary to pull out any card and initial it. And now I gather up the pack. The card goes back into the pack. As it goes in, angled a little bit to the left, slide up, and it goes through the pack, and my little finger gets the edge and pivots it out. That's what it looks like so far. Then I fan the cards in my left hand. What is actually happening is that I'm gripping this card and fanning the pack away from the clipped card. What it looks like is that. I pause there generally, just with the hand holding the thing clipped. Then, do you remember your card? And then when I raise the fan for him to look at, that's when I transferred the card into the full rear palm, just pressing with third finger. Now I'm in the right angles and the right hand position. Now you've got considerable freedom of movement with your fingers, so you can transfer the pack into your right hand. I reach in for my wallet with the left hand, and it's got to be this kind of a wallet, I'm afraid. But if you've got this kind of a wallet, you've then got a card to wallet, which is ready all the time because there is no preparation. Now here, it'll be best if I turn around so that you can see what is actually happening. I open the wallet like this. It's in here, and I open the far side with second finger. Sorry, wrong side. And I feed the wallet onto the card as I turn it round. If a little bit projects, as it sometimes does, suppose it's out there, as I complete the turn, my left thumb can tuck it back in, and then I can do the same hand action in order to pull it a little bit out. And then I turn to the spectator and let him complete the removal of the card from the wallet. And that's all there is to it.